Hi, I'm Thea from Supermetrics. Today, I'm joined by Mick and Irina from our product team. Hey guys, could we start by you guys introducing yourselves?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Mick, product manager here at Supermetrics for part of our connectors, including GA and GA4 connectors.
I'm Marina and I'm product manager for our Google Sheets, Excel, and Power BI integrations.
Great, thank you guys, and I'm super glad to have you on the call. As many marketers, as myself included, and all the members of our marketing team, we've struggled a lot with the whole UA to GA4 migration as many marketers in the past year. I'm curious to know how all of this has affected your work in products in Supermetrics.
Sure. Well, definitely lately, especially in the spring, we started receiving more and more questions about the connector or the difference between the two connectors. Typically, our users were trying to rebuild similar queries that they had in Universal Analytics, and it didn't necessarily work. So they were asking us, they were confused whether it was by design from the data source or an issue from our part. So then we understood that there's definitely some help and guidance we should bring to our users to avoid all that confusion. And also in our connector, we made a series of small changes to make it a bit more intuitive for those who were used to Universal Analytics.
Super. And we put together quite a lot of different materials around this whole migration from UA to GA4 in marketing. And now I'm curious to learn what we've also done in product team. So we put together this GA4 migration toolkits. Could you walk us through what's included in it?
Sure. So as I mentioned, there was a lot of confusion around the difference between the two connectors or the two data sources. So we created first of all comprehensive content about transitioning from our UA connector to GA4, explaining the main differences and step-by-step guide on how to recreate similar queries in different products, Looker Studio, Google Sheets, Data Warehouse. We also created a field mapping that we call the cheat sheet, where our users can find UA fields that have an equivalent in GA4. I can show you later. But even with all of this, this is nice help. But for our Google Sheets users, we came up with an automation that I'm going to let Irina explain a bit more in detail.
Sure. So as we had conversations with our customers and our other teams at Supermetrics, we realized that even with the help that we have for comparing the differences between the data sources, it's still hard to do all this manual work to transfer all these existing queries and transfer them from Google Analytics and find the corresponding fields in Google Analytics 4. So what we did is we created this special tool that is already available in Google Sheets, and I will show you how it works. It basically takes off all the manual work off of your shoulders. So let us look how it loads. And first of all, you need to select the connection that you have in Google Analytics 4. And if you are not logged in, then of course, you will be suggested to log in. And essentially, the tool will just duplicate your file with all the queries that it has, but convert all those Google Analytics queries that you have to Google Analytics 4 and replace the metrics and dimensions with the closest equivalent. So once you have your connection that you want to use, you can also now either skip account if you don't have the equivalent in GA4, or choose the one that you want to use. So of course, to understand that the structure is quite different now for Google Analytics 4. So you just choose those that you now support. And the tool will still ask you to confirm before you go and duplicate the file. It will just remind you that it will create the file, the duplicate file, and that all the data source Google Analytics queries will be replaced with Google Analytics 4 data source, and the views will be replaced with those that you just mapped. And you map them, of course, for all the queries that you have in the current spreadsheet. and we will find the closest equivalent. So all the manual work will be taken care of, and you will be getting this copy spreadsheet that will have all your queries. And as you can see, the metrics will be replaced with the closest ones, and the same for how you split the records. Of course, this may still require some manual attention. So you may want to look at if, whether or not you're getting the data you are looking for, but at least all those going back and forth will be taken care of.
You might also want to show the conversion summary here now.
Good point. Thank you so much for reminding me. Yeah. So also when you get that resulting file, you will see this conversion summary sheet, which will show you. So it's like a cheat sheet of its own for this current spreadsheet, where you can see what was converted. And in case the field didn't have a replacement in Google Analytics 4, then you will see it here so that you will know if you need to to replace something else. Yeah. That's it.
Super. That looks amazing. And I think many members of our marketing team and many marketers that I know will definitely appreciate that, because I feel like that will remove most of the manual work that marketers have while transitioning their reports in Google Sheets. By the looks of it, it also looks like many marketers would benefit from using this even after the sunset of Universal Analytics. Is that the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the tool is going to be available for as long as users still have to go through their transition. We know, for having talked with some of our users, that they are planning to do it little by little, not necessarily do everything by the 1st of July, but continue over H2. So yeah, it can be used, and it will still be useful after the 1st of July.
Super. I think many of us still have those reports, and time is running out, like you said. So it's a good news that people can still utilize the tool even after the sunsets. So Meg, you also mentioned the how-to guide and the cheat sheets. I'm curious to know how those look like and how could someone use those in the transition project.
Sure, I can show you. So here is the user guide that I was talking about. It's a comprehensive content piece that has mainly 2 parts. The first one more generic about the differences between Universal Analytics and GA4, but also our 2 connectors. It goes through differences such as the new 3 types of traffic source dimensions introduced in GA4, field compatibility, as some fields are unfortunately not necessarily compatible in GA4, even though some of them were in GA. The difference between what used to be a goal and a transaction in UA and is now a conversion event. Then the very famous or infamous change from bounce rate to engagement rate. A list of restrictions specifically about the API. And then the second part is the actual transition. So we start with this cheat sheet I was talking about. You have a link here. You can open it and walk you through it. So it's a field mapping where we have the old UA fields in orange on the left and their equivalent in GA4 on the right, with the field name in Supermetrics, but also the field ID for our users who like to manipulate the query directly. So that's very useful. There's also a few notes for some of the fields that have an equivalent, but that have a bit of quirks or things you should know. And then 3 other tabs about the compatibilities or incompatibilities I was talking about. So there's 3 types of incompatibilities, and they're listed here so our users can more easily create their queries knowing which fields are compatible with which. In that transition part, we also have step-by-step guide for each of our what we call product or destination. So Google Sheets, Looker Studio, and Data Warehouse, with options to either create a report from scratch with the help of the cheat sheet, for example, or using existing queries and adapting them. Similar for Looker Studio, either creating a report from scratch or duplicating a dashboard so that our users can keep their structure and the design, to spend a lot of time of it on it. And finally, for our data warehouse users, we created a schema in GA4 that is the equivalent of the UA standard schema. So basically, all the fields that have a direct equivalent in that schema have are available in that new UA standard equivalent schema. That's about it.
Super. I'm quite excited about all the assets, and I think this will help definitely many of our customers, but also our marketing team internally to transition all those reports. And finally, I'm curious to know what has been your biggest learnings from the whole migration from UA to GA4, the biggest learnings, and what should even users be aware of now that UA is going away?
I think there's a lot of things we learn, a lot of small differences between the two tools. Probably the main one is the fact that everything is now based on events. It means that users will have to, they will have less custom-made standard report that they'll have to create a bit their own. It can be a bit unsettling at first, but if they dig a bit more into how to track properly events and even use parameters in those events, or ask for help from an outsourced source, for example, to set it up, this will actually be very powerful to track behavior of different websites and apps.
That's super. Thank you guys both for joining the call today, and all the assets that we've shown you today are visible in our GA4 Knowledge Center. Again, thank you for joining the call today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Tia.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.